Okay, Bethany, as this episode is dropping, we are ever so close to getting a brand new year started. But before we get to 2022, let's go back and look at some of the things that happened for Steve and Bethany's Hopecast back in 2021.
Yeah, we're going to take a little trip down memory lane talking about our favorite episodes and the episode that was your favorite, the listener favorite. We'll be talking about all that on today's episode of the Hopecast.
Hey, I'm Steve. I'm the Gen Xer.
And I'm Bethany. I'm a millennial.
We used to do morning radio together, but now we're podcasting.
And despite being at different life stages, we're passionate about sharing ways to live out our faith in Christ.
And we have a lot of fun, too. So whether you're old school
or new school,
you're going to find hope here.
Let's get started.
Okay, Hope Dealers, welcome in as we get ready to say goodbye to 2021. It's hard to believe. I mean, I know that's the sign that old people say all the time, right? That's a sign of being older.
Yeah.
Anyway, I can't believe it's already a new year.
I will say this year has gone by quickly. It is strange to think that we're at the end of it, but yeah, because it seems like, okay, it was just yesterday that we were, starting this year and kind of like looking ahead at all that was to come. And so it's gone by quickly, I feel like.
There's a tremendously funny meme that says, I can't still process what happened in 2020 and we're almost ready for 2022.
No, it's totally true. And just thinking about how like all the things with the world and the world basically shutting down, that was nearly 2 years ago. It's kind of crazy to think about. So I get that. And I feel like maybe that's a sign of me getting older. I'm becoming an old person.
And well, yeah, I know. And today's what we're going to do is we're going to kind of format it this way. We've got one particular episode that you, the fans, have voted on through your downloads, through your clicks, as what you thought was the best Steve and Bethany's Hopecast. We'll get to that towards the end of the program. We'll also hear from Caleb, our producer, who is back. Is he awake? Yeah, he's awake over there. Look at there. Caleb's over there.
Thumbs up from Caleb.
And then we'll also hear from each one of us about what our favorite episodes were. And we'll let you hear a little bit of the highlights of them as we go through the program. But as we're taping this, we'll just full transparency. We're before Christmas. Obviously, you're hearing this the week after Christmas. So we assume each other had very good Christmases.
We're going to say, yes, we did.
We're going to say that. But we had our gift exchange today.
We did.
And it was pretty cool.
I really enjoyed it because, again, in the spirit of full transparency, I forgot to bring your gift to you when we shot our Christmas party episode.
Yes.
I completely forgot about it, left it at home. So I'm making up for it this week, and I got you a little ornament, a little something.
Yes, yes. And here it is. This is pretty nice. And she
wrapped it up all
pretty nice. And it's a tiger head because I'm a big
LSU fan.
I'm a big LSU Tigers fan. So
and
there
when
you go.
I was perusing the halls of Hobby Lobby, I saw that and thought, that is Steve and an ornament right there.
Well, it's very nice. It was very nice. And I got yours. Did you put yours over there?
I did. Hold on.
All right, hang on. Bethany's going to go away from the microphone and pick up my gift that I had brought her. Because actually now, as a guy, I get a lot of static for, well, your wife picks things out. I want you to know I picked this out.
Wow. Okay.
And said,
I'm impressed with you.
This is what I thought would be good for you.
Okay, look how pretty this is. I don't know how well you can see it.
Yeah.
It's a little like stained glass window ornament kind of thing, and it has the nativity scene on it, and then it says, all is calm, all is bright. It will go perfectly on my tree.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
That's the hope, because I had, as close of friends as we are, I had no idea what kind of tree you were going with, because, your generation seems like has these theme trees, and everybody's all about that.
That's where you're giving me too much credit, because I'm not organized enough to be a theme tree decorator. I just kind of just go with it. And like,
I love that.
And like, I like a tree to look pretty, and I like, I like to have an idea of where I'm going with it, but most of the time, like I do that months in advance. And then when the time actually comes for me to decorate the tree, I'm like, yeah. I can throw that ornament on there. Sure. Why not? It's my tree is very simple and very kind of plain, for lack of a better word. It's all neutrals pretty much. I don't have a ton of colors going on. It's just pretty. It's more about the lights. I just like the lights and kind of simple. And so that's my style of tree. So that'll go perfectly with it.
Well, at our house, we have always been an artificial, like 7-foot tree.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this year we have doubled. Or tripled, I guess. What, 3?
Yeah.
We got 3 trees now.
Good grief.
So I know. We've got one of the pencil trees, which everybody's crazy about.
It's a super skinny one.
It's the super skinny one that my wife has done in the rustic kind of fashion, is what she tells me. That's the rustic
Why
tree.
do you need 3?
Now, don't get me started in that because that'll get me in trouble.
Okay.
Because I'm not supposed to ask that question. And
Okay.
you can't ask it either.
Okay.
And then, so that's in our kitchen.
So
Because we've remodeled the kitchen. You know, we've got the new floors.
You
We
have
got the
room
painted.
for a tree in your kitchen?
Yes. Well, it's the skinny tree. It's
Oh,
the
true.
pencil tree. So, yeah, because that was one of the things we were really happy about with our kitchen is we had I guess we hadn't taken advantage of the space enough.
Yeah.
And so we really did some redesigning of it. So a tree fit, and we put a tree there.
Perfect.
And then we've got one on a tabletop that is what my wife is calling the Jesus tree because she's handmade some ornaments, but also found some other ones with all of the names of Jesus.
Oh,
There's
that's cool.
like hundreds of names
I like
for
that.
Jesus in the Bible. I don't know about hundreds, but lots of names.
A lot, yeah.
And so she's hand painted. The kids hand painted some of them.
Cool.
So it's really nice. Yeah.
I like that. And then the third tree is just like a whatever.
It's just like
a Griswold tree.
Yeah, well,
just go for it.
It's just anything and everything, you know.
Very nice.
So yeah, and they're still up in the house, and I'm sure it'll be up through the end of January probably at our house.
Sounds about right.
The way our stuff goes. But and we missed an opportunity. Not only did you not bring the present when we did our Christmas episode, we missed an opportunity. I had this all planned out. We would have a tabletop tree in here. Stockings, the Santa hats. I wanted it all.
You had a vision,
and
it didn't happen.
If you watched our Christmas episode, it looks like every other episode.
Well,
we didn't even do the fireplace.
But the thing is, though, last year the fireplace got us in trouble because it looked terrifying.
It looked like Daniel in Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
I was gonna say it looked like we were in a fiery furnace, and you know, I look back at that episode and I think we had such good intentions. We thought this is going to set the ambiance. We're doing like a fun wintry episode. This will just bring up the coziness. It'll be cool to have a fireplace playing on the TV behind us. No.
Yeah.
You go back and watch it and it's terrifying.
And it's the only thing you can see. You don't pay any attention to us. It's like they're on fire.
Truly. It's like, okay, yeah.
You can't look away from it.
Where are Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Where are they at? Because they're in there, surely. It's a fiery furnace.
Well, that is an episode you could go back and relive anytime at our archive, StephenBethany.com. But we thought we would go back and talk about our favorite episodes this year because we do these podcasts, and, yeah, we knock out one every single week. And they're all, good, but there's some of them that just kind of stand out for whatever reason. And that's what we want to do today is go back and we'll relive some of them. Let's start with you and your favorite episode of the year. Do you remember the episode number off the top of your head?
I do not.
All right, we'll go back and find it and put it in the notes.
We will. But I really enjoyed the episode that we did on holiness because this was something that I think this is just true for me. I'll see if you agree with this. The episodes that really resonate with me are the ones that I feel like I'm experiencing personally in that moment. It's not just something kind of topical. It's really something that I can relate and apply to my life. And so when we did the episode on holiness, I shared about how my husband and I are leading a community group and we're going through a book called The Pursuit of Holiness. It's by Jerry Bridges. Again, got to give a plug for it because it's such a good book. But basically that book, I shared about how it had really impacted my life and it's still impacting my life as I continue to read through it. And it's just something that I think I hadn't really thought a ton about. We know that God is holy and we, of course, have that knowledge, but really applying holiness to our own lives and how we as Christians should root out sin and should pursue being more like Christ and being holier. We're never going to be perfect and we're never going to be, flawless or anything by any stretch of the imagination. But as Christians, we should pursue to be like Christ. And so just what that looks like in our lives and how we can apply that, it was really, really impactful to me to read that book and just learn more about the holiness of God and how to pursue being like Christ. And so it was something that was just heavy on my heart and heavy on my mind. And I knew that I wanted to talk about it on the podcast. And so that's where I brought it up with you. And it was just something that I think was needed for me to talk about. If anything, I just needed to share about it. And it was something that I think hopefully a lot of people can just see and hear about and maybe just understand the importance of.
So let's go back to a little bit earlier this year, one of our earlier Stephen Bethany Hopecast episodes. Here is a little bit of our personal holiness.
When we're saying we should strive after holiness, that doesn't mean that we're not going to deal with sin in our lives,
Oh,
or that it's
absolutely
going
not.
to be easy. I think we were talking about this with my community group. I mentioned that we're going through this book on this topic, and it was a really great conversation. And somebody brought up the point that sin is something that we're going to have to fight for the rest of our lives. We are dead to sin because of what Jesus did on the cross, but it doesn't mean that we are immune to sin, and that we can't be touched by temptation, or we can't have things that we're just doing wrong and things that are hard in our lives. That's something that we're going to have to deal with until we are back with Christ and fully in his presence in heaven. That's something that we're going to have to struggle against. So I think it's important to recognize, like, we're still going to make mistakes. We're still going to struggle, but our heart and our mindset should be, what can I do to honor the Lord in my behavior? And then what's in my life that's not doing that? What are some things maybe that I can just kind of weed out and say, you know what? This is just really bogging down my mind. This is preventing me from thinking about the Lord as much as I should. This is distracting me. What can I weed out where I have more room, honestly, to think about the things of God and to be more focused on that?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that episode, Bethany. And one of the things that I really thought about while we were listening to the little clip that we just played is the fact that, in the Old Testament, God says, be holy because I'm holy. And I think a lot of times we as believers tend to want to, I don't want to say discount the Old Testament, but it's like, it's not the same as anymore. So God says holy there, but he doesn't say that in the New Testament. Well, he really does. He may not use those exact words, but the spirit of the thing is still the same.
Exactly, yeah. And I think it's something that isn't shared a ton about, just personal holiness in church, because it is something that can be pretty uncomfortable to hear and pretty, it can just step on your toes sometimes, because it forces you to look inward and realize, I got a lot of sin in my life. I got a long ways to go. And so I think that's why it's so important for us to talk about it, though. It is something that's not easy, but it's good and it's important.
Well, for me, one of my favorite episodes, and I think it may be the favorite that we did, is the episode on modesty. I really enjoyed that because, and I didn't think I would.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising for me.
Going into it, I thought this will be a nice episode, and we'll be able to express some feelings and some thoughts that we have on it. And yeah, it'll be fine. We'll move on. But we got so much feedback from it, and positively, because modesty tends to only be talked about in church circles as from a perspective of girls need to cover up.
Yeah.
That's what modesty usually equals.
Right.
And we were able to bring out, I mean, I love the title of the episode that we came up with. It's more than just the clothes. And that's exactly what I think attracted a lot of people to it. And to be able to listen to other people's feedback and to be able to say, you know what, it is a lifestyle, and it is something that's about your heart more so than what you wear. Because, again, we mentioned it on the episode. I have a friend of mine who's very eccentric in her dress, and she's a friend from college, and she's got the greatest heart in the world. She's the sweetest, nicest, most kind person you would ever think of. But she's got a very unique way of dressing,
right,
and that kind of thing. And some people will look at her and would think, is she really being modest? But really, I mean, the modesty stuff all comes from the heart. And again, she's not wearing, crazy short skirts and revealing shirts and all that, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And so when we were able to frame it in that way, to be able to talk about it in a way that I think maybe every other podcast doesn't, I thought was really important.
Well, let's go back and take a listen to that episode all about modesty and why it's so important.
In my experience.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to ask you, because see, it's been in my experience that it was always on the girls to, have to cover up and be modest and whatever, and not anything said to the boys about, get your mind out of the gutter.
And that's what was so frustrating, because I thought, I was like, I get it. Yeah, girls can distract boys with what they wear. I get that. But let's talk about both sides of the issue. Let's talk about girls, don't cause your brother to stumble. Like, if you're going to wear something that's going to do that, well, maybe put some thought into what you're wearing and be sensitive, because they're your brother in Christ and you need to be sensitive towards that. But also, boys, don't be looking at that. Like, if you need to, leave the room, shut your eyes, do what you got to do. But you need to take some responsibility here because there's two people involved. You know, it's not one single issue. It's a lot of people affected. And so that was where my frustration came from, was I felt like it was always put on the girls to be responsible, and the boys were kind of like, well, they can't help it. They have to look, and they're going to be tempted. So just don't wear anything that's, you know, revealing. Just dress in a potato sack and you'll be fine. That was how I felt.
For sure. You know, I totally understand where you're coming from on this, because I've heard teenage girls make this argument. And, you know, thankfully they haven't made that argument to me, because I don't know what answer to it. I think they're absolutely right, you know? So, I mean, I really feel what you're saying on this. Now, let's transition to why we should be modest. I mean, I know you talked about, you know, not causing your brother to stumble, but is there any other reasons why modesty should be?
I think because at the end of the day, when you are dressing in a way that's immodest, you are drawing attention to your body, causing people to look at you, and honestly see something other than maybe Christ in you. That's my bottom line.
Well, I really appreciate you bringing up that episode, just because that's a little surprising that was one of your favorites. But I think that topic about modesty and why it's more than just clothes, it's more than just something that should be applied to girls. It's really something that applies to everybody, and it's about the heart and about your mindset and your heart behind why you dress the way you do. I just think that's an important conversation, and so I'm glad that we got to kind of hear a little snippet of it all over again.
And Caleb is rejoining us. Hey, Caleb.
Hey.
Okay, Caleb has been our producer on and off this year, and a lot has been off here lately, but he's back.
He's had school.
He's had finals. The young Mr. Caleb is back, and so he's been in the chair over there, not sure what he does all the time, but he's over there, and he's listened to every episode for the most part. And you were telling us off air that you actually have been listening to some of the podcasts that you haven't been a part of producing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you have a favorite episode for the year?
Yeah, so it's one y'all did when I was in studio with y'all, the importance of date nights.
I remember that.
I think the reason I love that one so much is something my parents always valued, and my dad's even preached from the pulpit, how important it is to, after marriage, to continue dating your spouse.
Well, that's neat that you say that, because now that I have been married for quite a little while, I never knew that growing up. I never heard any sermons on it, never heard anybody talking about the importance of dating your wife afterwards. Not that it didn't, I guess, kind of seem natural, but never heard the importance of it.
Well, and I think it's cool that you found that episode to be so encouraging too, just because you're engaged now, and so you're going to be getting married next year, and I think that's a healthy thing to have an awareness of before you even get into marriage, to know between you and your fiance, knowing, okay, this is something that we should prioritize. We need to make sure that we're making an effort to keep dating even after the reality of life and marriage all sets in. Date night should still be a priority. So let's go back and take a listen to that favorite episode of Caleb's.
All right, so that is Caleb's favorite episode, our date night, which, by the way, all three of our episodes that we mentioned, we are going to link in our show notes, so you can just click on it. Or if you go to StephenBethany.com, we have a special feature on our website where they have featured episodes. We're going to, for this week, we're going to put all three of our favorites right there in the featured, so you can click on it pretty easy and see.
And of course, too, you can always go back and look at the archives and just find them that way. And of course, find some other episodes that might kind of interest you where you can go back and listen. But I think we couldn't wrap this episode up without talking about one of the listeners' favorite episodes.
Yes.
I think that's important.
I think it's important too. So we'll do that. And we've got some big news about what's coming up in 2022 for Stephen Bethany's Hopecast, and how you'll be able to hear us maybe in a little bit different vein. We'll talk about that coming up right after this. You know, something that we're very passionate about here at the Hopecast is introducing you to the businesses that support us and help them to grow.
And one of our favorite businesses happens to be owned by one of our biggest listeners. It's Tina Clark from Love Your Flair Boutique. It's an online store with tons of super cute stuff, and they just rolled out a bunch of new items just in time for fall. So whether you want an adorable shirt for Thanksgiving or football season, or one with like a Bible verse on it to wear year round, Love Your Flair Boutique has something that you'll love.
Tina has always had this dream of starting a business like Love Your Flair, but really never acted on it until she realized that by taking this leap of faith to go out on her own, she'd be able to show her kids that dreams can be achieved. Bethany and I have really enjoyed getting to know her lately, and we know that you're going to love her too. So check out all that she has to offer over at Love Your Flair's Facebook page. Check the show description for the link, or just go to StephenBethany.com. Okay, welcome back. Stephen Bethany's Hopecast, back on the air for our final time here in 2021. And we have got our favorite listener episode coming up. And we say that, how do we determine that? Well, we determine it by you and your downloads, because I'll just say for the longest time, our episode with Michael Tate from the Newsboys was our most listened to episode.
Yeah, most downloaded episode.
Which is kind of crazy, because you look at the rest of our episodes and it's all about topics and people enjoy topics.
Right.
For whatever reason, that interview stuck out for a long time.
Well, Michael Tate's a great guy, so it doesn't surprise me that
sure.
people wanted to listen.
No, for sure. It was just kind of strange because you had topic, and then, Michael Tate.
Right.
So anyway, for the longest time, but we have a new number one now.
We do.
Michael Tate's doors have been boat raced. Well, we're really, you look at the numbers, it's kind of happened. He has just kind of gone from first to down the list quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that is an episode we did called Christians That Are Different From You.
Right. How to talk to Christians that are different from you. And this was an episode that, again, I think we both had kind of personal connections to. We both have experienced situations and moments where we've disagreed with other believers on something. And how do you approach that in a way that's honoring to the Lord and doesn't cause strife and division and drama and all of that stuff? How do you have conversations with people that just believe a little differently from you? But, the core things are the same, I guess, just different kind of convictions.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to, I think, is the convictions that you have, and how important it is not only for us to have our own convictions, but for us to look out for the convictions of others. If you have something that really you're passionate about, or that you feel like, hey, God doesn't want me to do that, I think it's my job to say, okay, I don't see it that way, but I'm going to respect that and even go maybe the extra mile of making sure that I don't do anything to try to make you feel uncomfortable in your conviction.
And clearly, we had personal connections to this episode, but also I think a lot of people did as well, because it was our most downloaded episode.
But for the most part, and what we're talking about, I think you need to encourage that conviction. If, Bethany, you come to me and you say, look, I just really don't feel comfortable with X, then it's my job, I think, as a Christian to say, okay, Bethany's not comfortable with that, so if she's coming to my house, or we're going out to dinner, or we're doing whatever, let's avoid that. Let's just not bring that up. Let's make sure her conviction is lifted, not lifted up, but her conviction is affirmed.
Yeah.
Because God is obviously dealing with her heart in that issue. So let's make sure that she's following God to the best of her ability. I think that's part of our job as Christians too.
And two, it's not about behavior modification. It's not about being fake. I don't want anybody to hear that and think, oh, so then I just have to not be myself around people.
No, that's exactly right.
But we should be considerate. We should be kind. We should be accommodating. And I think it's important to share with people, hey, I view that differently, but when you come over to my house, don't worry about it.
Right.
We're not even going to bring that up, because it's not worth sacrificing a friendship or causing a fracture in a relationship when it's not even necessary. It's not needed.
If you go back to the drinking analogy, okay,
Yeah.
Bethany, let's just for a moment say that you don't have a problem with the drinking, and I do.
Okay.
So if you're coming to my house, don't expect me to have the alcohol there to drink, right? But if I go to your house, you probably have it, and that's okay.
Well,
I'm not going to partake in it, but we can. That's fine with you, and that should be fine with me.
And I think if we had a healthy dialogue going, where you knew, that I am okay with drinking, and then you're not okay with drinking, or whatever, if we're going to use that analogy here, I would not have it out, and I wouldn't offer you any if you were coming to my house.
Yeah.
I think that's the relationship there, is being sensitive to other people and other views, and again, not being fake, not being, I don't know, not real, whatever that word is. Not having that approach, but just being sensitive to what other people are feeling and thinking.
All right, so there you go. There are our favorite episodes of the year from Caleb, from Bethany, from Steve, and from you, the podcast listener. So we're so thankful that you have joined us through this first ride of 2021. It's really our first full year.
Yeah, because, we started the episode, or the podcast, I should say. We started the podcast in 2020, in spring of 2020, and that whole year is a blur. I feel like that whole year almost shouldn't even count because things were so crazy.
Whoa, I just hit the microphone. Sorry.
Exactly. That's
Sorry.
what I'm saying.
I know.
The world was upside down. Everything was crazy. And so, we were trying to kind of get our footing as a podcast and figure out what exactly this show was going to be. And this year, I think we kind of hit our stride and figured some things out and just got to a better place in topics that we covered and just the format of everything. I feel like we kind of hit our stride. And so, yes, this year has been a great one, and we're super thankful for everybody that's listened and supported this podcast and just been encouraging to us this whole year.
Absolutely. And here's some cool, fun news that we've got coming up. I know that you don't just listen to Steve and Bethany's Hopecast.
Right.
People that are podcast listeners listen to all kinds. And so we have been praying and we have been thinking and we have been exploring ideas of how we can get more people to listen to this episode, not this episode, but this podcast.
Yeah.
And not for any real selfish reasons, but mainly to be able to get what we do out to a broader audience.
Well, I think it just goes back to our heart behind this podcast, which is just to encourage people in their faith and take what they might hear on a Sunday morning and just expand on that and share a little bit more in a way that's easy to understand, that's conversational, that's just real. We're real people, and we kind of consider everybody that listens to this podcast to be a friend that's involved in this conversation. And we're just sharing what we've learned through our faith journeys and our backgrounds and just sharing that. That's our heart. And so we want to do that with even more people.
We absolutely do. So here's what we have come up with. And we really feel like God has really opened these doors because we had a lot of stops and starts as to some of the things we wanted to do. We had these ideas. Well, we'll go here. Well, we'll try that. And God has really opened the door for us to be a part of some of the podcasts that Christianity Today is doing. They are probably the most famous one that they have right now is the Rise and Fall of Mars Hill.
Yeah.
Easy for the professional broadcaster to say. And they have those, but they have so many other ones across their network. So we've had an opportunity to be able to partner with them. And you're going to start hearing our lovely little voices through some of these podcasts.
Yeah, just in advertising. Yeah.
And advertising coming up through out the next year. So we're hoping that more people will be able to be exposed to us and be able to sample us a little bit. So we really ask for your prayers. We ask that you just have God just lead us where we need to go. And if you have been blessed by this podcast, if we make you smile, if we make you think, or any of those emotions that you've become, hey, I just kind of like Steve and Bethany, would you just share this podcast with those that are into podcasts in your life?
Yeah, truly. Like, word of mouth is all the advertising that we could ask for.
Yeah.
So we are really grateful for those that have shared with their friends and with their family. And so we just ask you to keep on doing that. And like Steve mentioned, keep us in your prayers. And this next year, as we start kind of branching out in the advertising world, be praying for us that it just reaches the right people and that we have the words to say and that it's just encouraging to those that need to be encouraged. That's our biggest prayer, I think.
And before we call it a year, not only an episode, but a year, we want to say thank you to TJ and to Caleb from Blue Stream Media for everything that they've done for us through the beginning of this podcast, being able to help us have the lights and the cameras and the microphones and the whole thing, and being encouraging. We talk about us being encouraging to other people. They've helped us so much.
And I will say, too, it's not easy to just sit here and listen to me and Steve gab.
No.
So we appreciate Caleb and TJ giving their time just to sit and help us produce this podcast.
And if you have any kind of event coming up, whether it's a wedding, whether it's a church conference, or anything that needs any kind of professional, top-shelf audio, video production stuff, you need to call Blue Stream Media, BLU Stream Media. You can find them online, blustreammedia.com. They are top shelf. I mean, just the best, and you will not be disappointed by using them.
We're also really thankful for all of our Patreon members and those that have just helped us and been truly an encouragement and joined the podcast family, this Hopecast community. We're really grateful for them. If you want to become a patron, you can. You support the podcast, not just financially, but truly in a way that means more than you'll ever know. Just encouraging us with your prayers, with your words. Tiers start at $5 a month. That's all it takes. So if this podcast has encouraged you, just become a patron and maybe encourage your friends to do the same.
Yes, absolutely. And then one last person we want to thank, Tina Clark, who is a listener. She started out
The
just
best.
like everyone else, just like you listening. And she got in contact with us and we said, well, yeah, we can try to help you out with
Yeah,
your business.
do some advertising.
Love Your Flair Boutique. So you can check her out online. She still is in the process of getting that website up, but she's got a Facebook page that we'd love for you to go check out all of the things that she has. And we've got some plans with her all next year that we're looking forward to with Love Your Flair. So you can check her and her business out in the show notes as well. So just click on the bottom of the screen right there to be able to see all the great things she has, not only for the end of this year, but all the new stuff coming in for January.
I think that about does it.
Yeah.
I think so. Well, thank you guys.
2021's in the books.
It is. And thank you so much for just all of your encouragement and all of your support throughout this 2021 year. We're very grateful for
and we're
everybody.
looking for some big things next year. Thanks for joining us. Good night, Olive Branch.
We'll see you next year.